Explore Zulu. Protect your data from exploitation by big tech with AI-centric privacy.
We're focusing on building, like helping people actually build things with technology. So that's kind of like my day-to-day focus. For the venture arm also, I'm like a lifelong tinkerer. I like build things, I build prototypes, I work on projects all the time, and in doing so, I participate in a bunch of different hackathons and activities that take place. So recently I participated in a hackathon for a cryptocurrency slash payment infrastructure solution called Zcash, which is basically a zero knowledge proof cryptocurrency. So the idea that when you go shopping, you go to the store and you spend $1, it's like a very private transaction, right? You spend the money, the person that receives the money receives it, and it's a very private transaction. And with current cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or stable coins like US dollar coin or anything like that, that whole concept of privacy is not there, because by the design of how a blockchain operates, everything is distributed and publicly transparent and available for everyone to query. And so there's no such thing as privacy in the Web3 ecosystem. And so that's what the whole focus of this hackathon was. And so when I first started, I was thinking, maybe I'll do something like everyone else. I'll create some sort of payments app. I got a really awesome name when I was doing some brainstorming, and I was able to get the domain Zulu.cash. I started thinking about what does the Zulu mean. It's you're thinking of the Shaka Zulu and the warriors in Africa and kind of that element of the spirit. Long story short, over the month, iterated, had a lot of different conversations, and decided not to do a payment application. And instead, I started thinking, where is the biggest lack of privacy in our day-to-day lives? And so that's kind of the whole premise of this presentation. And I've written down kind of the most perfect response to what this whole thing is all about today. And this is the opener. So most people today confess their deepest secrets to an AI tool. Things they would never tell a friend, without realizing that they're handing their entire life to big tech oligarchs who owns their minds, right? So we've normalized this idea that intelligence must live in the cloud, and that the only way that AI is going to work is if we give our privacy and our data and our information to companies that use that information for whatever purposes that they might have. And so the whole idea with Zulu is, what if you could empower people to have their own AI agents that are personalized and that basically live with them. So they own their data and they're able to basically interact with this AI just like they normally would, but without their information going into the cloud and going into the controls of companies like OpenAI and Google and everyone else that we love. So that's kind of the idea here. Just to kind of walk you through what this presentation, the whole thing was around AI without surveillance. The problem is that modern AI today, there's basically, unfair advantage that people are subjected to. People will tell their deepest secrets to AI, right? Like, I'm going through some health issues, I have health concerns, I'm giving it all this private information. And that information is going to some company, some corporation, some large entity that has this data. And maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, who knows? But really, is it fair? I think with Zulu, what we're saying is it's not. And so we want to flip that architecture. And so what Zulu currently is basically, it's very simple. It's a local first AI agent. And I'll actually get into the whole demo for you guys. So just to kind of give you an idea of what the presentation will consist of. It's we'll do a flyover. We'll show you the inside of the application, and then some of the UI, and talk about what the possibilities are. But let's see. So let's just jump right in, right? So how does Zulu work? So the very first version I'm going to show you right now is just a inside of my Windsurf CLI. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit run. And this is just to give you an idea of like what the whole concept of transcriptions are, right? So what Zulu does is once it kicks off, it's going to start basically recording this conversation. So like as we're speaking right now, Zulu is taking in this information. So, it's able to distinguish between speakers. It's able to, understand the language that is being spoken. And then it's able to give you a summarization of all the stuff that is discussed. So in different settings, there might be situations where privacy is actually a priority, right? So think like if you're a healthcare professional, for example, and you're having a conversation with a patient, then you have all these different HIPAA and all these other requirements that you have. Or if you work in defense industry, or if you're working in some sort of private industry, if you're a lawyer, you're going to have some privacy. And so that's the whole focus here. So we've recorded about 50 seconds of time. So I'll just.
So if I say something right now, it will like show.
It would actually. It would have caught it, but. You spoke just a quick, just a second late, right? So on the back end, basically, this is where we're seeing like the Whisper X is kicking off. This is basically getting all the different modules running. There's like a piece here that's looking for like how the language is structured. It does detection of the like voice activity. It's using PyNote, and then basically it just kind of goes through this whole process of getting a summarization. And the cool thing is, I love AI. I'm tinkering all the time. Like, my background, I'm not a computer scientist. I studied accounting and finance. I don't come from that background, but I've spent enough time with these tools where, you're able to like interact with the AI, right? I'm like literally on the side chatting with the Claude Sonnet model, and I'm able to get, things built. But the cool thing is the future, right? So like while that's loading, we're gonna get a summary very soon. What the goal is basically to create kind of a summary that flows into a visualization like this. So the idea is basically you're able to record the call or the conversation, you're able to get that information to flow, you're able to see live summary of your data, and then you're also able to get full summaries of what you were discussing, right? So you can have like reference points and and there's already tools that are out there like Fireflies, there's Otter AI, there's a bunch of tools that are out there, right? And the cool thing that I like about this is like being a tinkerer is that I was able to create this entire process for myself without having to pay for a subscription, right? So that's kind of like the cool thing about it is that this is open source technology that you're able to like, put together and run and do all of that. So just to make sure that I wasn't like, BSing you guys and that there's actually the summarization is working. Here's a summary of what we were talking about, right? Conversation discussed, importance of prioritization, privacy, talks about HIPAA, right? I mentioned this right here in areas like in medical. And then it gives you kind of a summary of the main points. And then it gives you like a sentiment analysis, right? So it's very basic. This is just, a very simple kind of explanation of what was just discussed. Now, without getting too off topic, this is the website here. This is kind of like the architecture for Zulu. I've had like I get constant feedback, and this is all open source, so the GitHub is available if anyone wants to like mess with this, or if you have thoughts or anything. I would actually appreciate it greatly. And I want to thank you especially because when I did the documentation, I was like, man, like let's go and do some great work with the tools. But this documentation kind of walks you through like the model is using Olama and a few other like choices that you could use. So like people already could have Olama, right? Like there's no differentiator with Olama. Anyone could have it. The piece that makes Zulu special is the memory piece. It's using Cypher SQL and basically creating those local databases for the information, for the context. And then there's also an identity layer piece. So earlier on, I started this whole presentation talking about the hackathon, Zcash, zero knowledge proof, the identity layer. So that's like the piece here as well. There's a component where you can actually turn on this ability to have financial transactions on your behalf by your agent, right? So like think these models right now, we're just talking about the ability to transcribe meetings, but imagine if you have a business that does shipping and you want to have an automated process for how you do your logistics, you know, your payments and things like that, right? So like maybe you could have a system like that with Zulu. So check out the website, all of the details. I'll drop in the chat. This is the GitHub here. This is the README section that kind of outlines everything here. The architecture piece is here. This is what the difference between, you know, again, what Zulu does and just having an Olama model. And I will drop in the chat also the website, which is, I use Gamma, by the way, if anyone was wondering how I made this part right here is a Gamma presentation. So I'll share the link for this as well for reference. But yeah, with that, I'm opening up for questions, thoughts, or anything.
Did you find any kind of performance roadblocks because it was running locally, especially around the length of audio that you're working with?
Yes, I did actually. It was one of the initial, and I actually I added a bug log and kind of like a update log inside of the README, but that was like one of the first things that I had, and like on the 5th of December, you know, and it was like, yes, it was the amount of time needed for the recordings was being like, it was 30 seconds, it was like too much, right? And so I ended up doing like this chunking kind of system. I used like Claude and Gemini and like I troubleshooted with all these things, and then it was like, oh, that you can actually like chunk the messages or the audio exactly into different pieces. And that ended up working, and the last test was that it went, I think it was like almost an hour, and it was able to like record that. So it's right now expected at 2 hours to be able to last. But yeah, so that was one of the ones, and then there was also like the recent one was like hallucinations. I had a hallucinating problem where it was like, it couldn't understand things, so it would just like make up a conversation. Like I was like, what the heck? Like I had no like, and it had to do with like how the whisper was being set up or something. So I troubleshooted that, and it worked. And so like, I think like bringing it all back to the context of AI tinkerers, I think like the whole thing is about tinkering. Like I love that concept of it, and you know, like I'm with Skill Exchange, we're in the chats during the whole time with Eddie. I'm like Eddie and team. I'm like, guys, you know, like here's this idea, here's this use case. What are some things, you know? And like people are just bouncing ideas, and with all the tools like the Lovable, the you know everything else, you can build anything, you know. So one of the cool little pieces is also like, even though this started off as an idea and it's like random, this is one of the recent likes that I had today on Twitter was with this gentleman here, Zoku. And Zoku is basically the electronic cash company, is the company that started Zcash in the first place. He recently had a bounty out right after the hackathon for Blake 3, and I basically was like, oh, Blake 3 and Zulu can actually collaborate. So he liked it and he followed me as well. So validation from the top. And then also like just back to if people want to test this thing out, it is available. I have the school community as well, like 900 members that are in that are just like learning AI tools. I'm telling them, hey, you could use a free AI. Here's your own model, set it up, and you can mess with it and like use it for your day-to-day and save yourself $30 a month by not having to subscribe to one of the competitors, right? So second time ending, but I'll
There's something called Nilion, Nillion.
Oh yeah. The nylon. That's it's like a database. It's a distributed database tool. And one of the hackers or participants in the hackathon had suggested it as an as a possible like add-on. So I created like it can plug into that system, but I just didn't set it up because I was kind of one man shop, you know.
Eddie, is there someone in the Zoom who is not in the Zoom? Because it feels like someone is asking about audio.
Oh no.
I did send